the entire woods breaks out in response. The same howl that's in that recording.
I sound like I'm from that era, back in the old days.
I love it. As I'm watching it walk down the road, it just disappears, like through this invisible door.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Paranormal. Oh, shit, I fucked up. If you like today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and of course, you can find the video interview on youtube.com/paranormalpop. Today's episode is brought to you by Alien Coffee Bean, bringing you kindness and coffee. Hello and welcome to this edition of Coffee and UFOs. In my previous attempt to make an introduction, I was going to say Paranormal Now, but that's not this show. This is Coffee and UFOs. And my guest coming on in just a moment is Anne Celine, Lady Anne. And she is a mystical podcast host. Lady Anne, welcome to Coffee and UFOs.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So you are, I would say a mystical podcast host, because your podcast and your KPNL network, covers all things enchanting and paranormal and mystical and storytelling and bumps in the night. So tell us about really quickly about you and how you got into covering the paranormal, whether it's on your podcast, the Caravan of Lore, or going even further to develop KPNL Radio.
Yeah, no, see, it's interesting because I really feel that I was born into the paranormal world. I have memories. My first memories were that of seeing things in the hallway, or before I could speak, I remember looking out this window and I was seeing the sunrise, and I remember just sitting there thinking, wow, I came back. And, so I just knew that I had been here before. And I was, younger than a year old. So, and then from there, after having so many experiences, I ended up finding the paranormal community back in 2015. And I found it through Shannon LeGros, who runs Into the Fray Radio. So from there, I just kind of got to know the community. And then the Caravan Library of Lore was born. And so I've been, that's been on air, I would say, since 2017. And then in 2020, I believe it was, in that January, I created a KPNL, which is a paranormal digital podcasting station. And that the drive behind that was that there are so many amazing people, such as yourself, in this community, that they really put in heart in what they do. This is not just something that they're doing, in their off time just because. There's really heart behind it. There's community behind it. There's healing behind it. And I wanted to create a place to bring everybody together and really celebrate what everyone's doing here.
I'm so glad. I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, that you brought that up. Like, there's healing, because that's really kind of been where my focus has been a lot lately. And during the pandemic, I started working on this like no budget, documentary, interviewing podcasters and people who are researchers in these fields, because I personally have like a singular fascination with why we're all doing this, and like why we're obsessed with it, healthily and sometimes not so healthily, but we're why it makes us feel good, and I do really believe that there's like this healing side to it. There's something therapeutic almost about it.
There really is. I mean, I know for me, the first interview that I did, I believe, was on Into the Fray. I think it was episode 50. No, it was episode 48. That's right. And I remember telling some of the stories from when I was really little. After I was done and the show aired, I ended up with messages from people all over the world saying, oh my gosh, I've seen shadow entities in my house and they look like this or they behave like that. And I've experienced, these other things that you mentioned. And it really showed me that number one, I'm not crazy. Number two, I'm not alone. And then because I told my story, that made somebody else be able to come forward and tell theirs. So, we set that example, and then we build that community. And there's so much healing in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, so what about you? I mean, how has it helped you like heal? Like, how has it
Gosh.
made you feel better?
Um you know, for the longest time, I kind of felt like the oddball. I felt
Mhm,
like I didn't belong. I felt like maybe I was weird, or I was imagining things. And there was a lot of people that have come into my life that I mean, being around me can be a paranormal experience. I really haven't had anybody come into my life and spend significant time with me who hasn't experienced something paranormal themselves. Whether we're sitting here on a video chat and they see a shadow figure go behind me,
mhm.
whether I message them and go, "Hey, I was just thinking about this," and it was right there, they were right about to say it.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're not in that kind of a community, people really kind of single you out, and they act afraid of you, or they cast you aside, kind of a thing. So finding this community has really helped me walk in a more authentic way,
Mhm,
especially when it comes to my natural abilities. I'm a born witch. I was born with these abilities. I'm a Reiki master. I've been practicing since I was 15. I'm 35 now. And being able to say, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I do. It's very healing. It really is. Instead of hiding in the broom closet or whatever, and denying it, and finally being able to say, "You know what? This is me. And not only is this me, this is real."
yeah. Speaking of real, on Coffee and UFOs, I always ask the most important questions. Speaking of, which would be,
Mhm.
have you seen a UFO?
Yeah. Actually, I have. I've seen multiple. Growing up on
Yeah.
the hill where I used to live,
Yeah.
my dad, he was ex-military, and it was really interesting because I remember asking him. I was like, "Dad, how can you tell a UFO from a airplane?" He said, "Well, it's very simple," and he pointed out in the sky, "And here's a satellite, and here's a plane, and this is a comet or whatever, a shooting star." And then I remember when he pointed out a UFO. And so I learned the differences, and I would just look up at the sky, and you could see, they were there. Um, I've went on to have some strange experiences, dreams that I'm not sure if they were really a dream or not. I actually do have a photograph of something that I experienced. I was outside, and there was just this big thing of smoke that came out of nowhere, and it really caught my attention. And I wasn't thinking about anything weird when I was out there. I was thinking about the apartment and the community that I was in, and how I could, better it. And so this big thing of smoke caught my eye, and I'm staring at it, and all of a sudden it takes this form of this entity, and am watching it walk down the road.
Okay.
Well, as I'm watching it walk down the road, it just disappears, like through this invisible door. Well, finally, because I didn't have fight or flight, I had freeze. And I finally get inside, and I shut everything up, and then I go to the window where my children were, and I already had my phone out because I was gonna call my sister. And I look out the window, and in the window across from my apartment in the other apartment, there it is. And so I took a picture, and I have shown the picture around. Nobody's been able to debunk it. I really wanted them to because I felt like if they can say that this is a car, this is a reflection, this is somebody in the window,
Right.
it wouldn't be as heavy of an experience, you know?
Yeah.
So
Do you share that picture publicly, or is that you just keep it in your private life?
it took me about a year. It was like maybe about a year or so before I
Mhm.
spoke about it, and maybe a little longer until I finally showed it publicly. But I can send it to you after this.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll put it up. That's I'm really fascinated now, because
Yeah.
that's the golden ticket, right? Like that's if not to prove to the world, at least to prove to ourselves, like I
Oh
did see
yeah.
something here. Here it is.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and these alleged shadow entities or whatever they might be, we don't really know, right?
Mhm.
Or at least I don't think we know. Maybe you have a better grasp on what it is, but you know, confirmation of experience is so profound.
Right. It really
What do
is.
these ethereal dark entities that people see?
You know, um, I came across another podcaster, somebody who's been working on a documentary. His name is Mike Rixicker, and he has been studying shadow entities forever. Um, you know, the shadow entities, is it them taking that form, or is it the way that we're seeing it? Because, like, there's a story, and I can't remember who I heard it from, but they were talking about how they had seen this ghost, and she was like Victorian dressed, but they
Yeah.
each saw her in a different dress. And then there's another story about how somebody saw like a light, but somebody actually saw a full apparition, and they're staring at the same thing.
Right.
So how much of it is like it itself, and how much of it is we're filtering it through
Mm.
something because we're signed up to experience it a certain way because of the path that we've laid before us for our soul's development.
Right. I mean, when they were looking at a dress, are we talking about something just a completely different dress, or is it like when two people look at a car, one sees orange, one sees red?
No, completely different dress.
Okay.
Completely different cut, style,
Yeah.
length, everything.
Right, but I think that really speaks to, and it goes all the way back to Jacques Vallée, entertaining the idea that these creatures that we've been seeing, elementals throughout time, um,
Mhm.
that those are just older incarnations of the alien experience.
Mm, mhm.
And so that, and then you hear people talk about um screening, right? So
Right,
like they're having this abduction experience, and like the entities are screening in their mind what they want that person to see.
right.
um so yeah, I suppose if this is an entity of some sort coming through uh,
Mhm,
you know another dimension or whatever, it obviously is manipulating space and time to some degree in order to do that.
mhm,
So I, why wouldn't it be possible for that thing to manipulate your mind and to kind of project like a hologram onto your mind what it would
mhm.
prefer you see, or at least it tries. Maybe it's not 100% successful, but kind of guides your mind to going into a different direction,
Yeah.
because they want us to not agree that we see the same thing, because then
Right.
it makes it hard to like validate.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
that would
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah. I mean, if it was me, I would do something like that. I mean, that's a great camouflage. It's a great, because then it's really easy to be like, well, that person doesn't know that they're talking about. They're just crazy. They dismiss
Right.
it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Um, so you've seen entities, UFOs. Have you seen a cryptid?
You
That's
know,
that's the question that I get the
oh,
least number of yeses from. So,
oh man. Okay. So I have a book that I wrote that's coming out in February.
yes.
And my cryptid sighting was the last part of my book that I needed to write to be able to send it off to the publisher.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to be able to write that down. Um, I had went and I was doing like a ghost investigation with some of my friends, and we had the spirit box out and motion activated cat balls and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And we started getting a lot of stuff coming through about the land, something being connected to the land. So, of course, I have the bright idea that, oh, well, let's go out in the woods and do this, Like,
Mhm.
so we go out and we get in the woods. And, in Oregon here, it's very quiet in the woods. But over there, it was, oh my gosh, there was like cicadas. I mean, it was an orchestra. But when we
Yeah,
go into the woods, it was silent. And I didn't register that. Like it should have been loud. But because I'm used to quiet forests, I didn't register it.
sure.
We go in and I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling fine intuitively and everything. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, no, we're fine. We set everything up and I'm standing there and I hear something walk behind me, bipedal, very
Mm.
distinct. And I just kind of sit there and I'm not wanting to be the scaredy cat here, so I just kind of don't say anything. And then it's like I hear this really low growl, but nobody else reacts. Nobody else hears that. So then I'm like, okay, I am overreacting. It's all in my head. This is not happening. So I turn around and I'm looking and I have a flashlight at this point and I'm just kind of like, you know, looking around and
Yeah,
I see
X-Files
this
episode. Yeah.
silhouette. Yeah. And there's the silhouette next to a tree.
Mhm.
And I'm staring at this and I'm like, uh-uh. No, like we're out here for ghosts. Not this. Not
Mhm.
Sasquatch. Absolutely not. Like this is not I'm not claiming this as part of my reality right now.
Sure.
And so then I look away and I look back, it's gone. So I'm like, okay. And I just kind of stand there. And then finally they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, no, I want to go. We need to leave. We need to leave right now."
Yeah.
So we leave. But I'm like, "Let's just go out to the field. Just out to the field, just a little bit further away, and I'll be fine." So we get out to the field and one of the friends that I'm with, she plays the 1994 recording, you can find it on YouTube, of the Ohio Howl. And the entire woods breaks out in response. The same howl that's in that recording,
Wow.
just
Wow.
bellowing out. And I'm froze. I cannot believe that I'm hearing this right now. I cannot believe that,
Mm.
like, it's real. And I'm literally standing there, and I'm like, monsters are real.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified. So,
Is
then mhm.
No, go ahead.
Well, then the last part was that we hear it's like somebody, like, they ripped a tree out of the ground and then smacked it against another tree, and it was just reverberated through your whole body, and I mean, we took off. We were done.
Yeah.
It was
Like,
terrifying.
was it like a kind of a knocking that people describe, or was it just one big bang?
One big smash, like they were mad. Like
Wow.
it was just like whack, just huge and howling, and it was just, I mean, I really never thought that I would ever have that experience. I stayed out of the Sasquatch community, not because I didn't believe anybody, but because I didn't want that to be a part of my reality.
Yeah, yeah.
But granted, with my history and everything that I've been through, I kind of should have just assumed that, well, it's just a matter of time.
Isn't it funny how we all react differently? Some
Yeah.
people would be perfectly comfortable with
Mhm.
macabre or like a Sasquatch encounter or a
Right.
Mothman encounter, and not be cool with a ghost.
Yeah.
Um, and after all the things that you have seen, you
Mhm.
know, preceding this,
Mhm.
still weren't like prepared for that.
No. No. Even, I mean, I've been at some of the really, famous haunted locations, and I felt I went off and I decided to explore it alone. I just felt energetically that it would be fine,
Yeah.
And so I went meandering and I just kind of went where I was energetically called to.
Mhm.
But I got to the basement, and it was when I was standing in the in the basement, I felt like a hand just went up like this in the back of my hair. Like I could really feel a hand and fingers in my hair. And, of course, that sent me running back up the stairs and back up to with the group. Um, but I that was not nearly as terrifying as the whole Sasquatch thing because I guess with ghosts, it's like there's ways to energetically protect yourself or shut things off or move on from it or whatever. But with Sasquatch, this is like a physical creature. Like this is a physical thing and it's
Mhm.
huge. And really, truly, if it really wanted you, there's nothing you can do. It runs faster than you, it's
Correct.
stronger
Yeah.
than you, you know?
And clearly
So,
it's territory, so it's
yes.
more familiar with the surroundings than you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like whatever tree you think you're going to climb up, like it knows that. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's fascinating. Like so when you're all this is kind of scary, right? So where's the joy in it?
You know, there's joy in the fact that, like, when my grandpa died, he passed away back in 2011. Or I had another friend that died in 2020. I have been able to communicate with them afterwards. I've received messages not just on my own through my dreams or through, just whatever.
Mhm,
Um but like I've went to go interview someone who is a psychic. And then after the interview, when, we stopped the recording, they said, "Hey, I've got this message coming through from you from somebody that's like this." And I knew exactly who it was. And it was one of them coming through to still, so that
yeah,
when we pass away, it's another adventure. We're not gone, so that's really healing. And again, it goes back to the community being able to have these experiences and then share them with others and then help. Once we process a trauma ourselves, then
mhm,
we can turn around and help somebody else process their trauma and heal from
yeah.
it and then on down the line.
I've always wondered if there is, a correlation between people who have experienced darkness in their own life,
Mhm.
and then they're kind of drawn to the mystery in the because of that somehow. I'm not sure,
Mm.
if that's true at all, but I kind of feel like those of us who have been drawn to these topics of interest,
Mm.
have had experience with the darker sides of life, and I wonder if it's like us trying to embrace that in a way. But then at the same time, like I find all this absolutely, like you said, absolutely beautiful. Like,
Right.
and the darkness is beautiful, because
Mhm.
it's all about balance. Um, and
Oh,
there's the
yeah.
whole metaphysical aspect. Like all these questions are they're eschatological questions. Through via ghost hunting or
Yes.
Bigfoot hunting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so when you talk to family members or your own
Mhm.
family, um, do you edit yourself? When you're talking about these topics, or are you comfortable now? Like this is who I am, and this is what I do, and I believe in, and
I you know, the only people that I really edit or filter myself with is if I'm at work.
Mhm.
My last boss was, he was like, "Why are you so weird?"
That's a
And
compliment.
I was like, "Well, I'm sorry." And, but it was so funny because we had people that were coming in and they were really drawn to me and they would just start talking and spilling their life stories and stuff, and it just left him kinda scratching his head.
Yeah.
And, so I do try to not let it, filter into more the mundane life, and then if you meet new people, you don't want to just scare them away.
Mhm. Is that
You kind
true?
of
I
get to
mean, I think
ease
that's just
into it.
yeah, I think like any social interaction, right? There's a certain level of like ice breaking and
Yeah,
courting and that sort of thing. But
right.
you know, and you speak about community, and I love the community, by and large. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like any other community. There's all kinds of different people, people who are more positive, people who are more negative, and everyone else in
Right.
between. Uh, and you run a network, KPNL Radio.
Mhm.
So, what's it like to do that and interact with that, community?
That has been incredible. You know, I okay, so I was talking with somebody
Mhm.
today, and we are bringing on a new show on KPNL, so that's going to be announced soon. And as her and I are talking, it was just incredible because there was like this energetic connection immediately, and then her abilities kind of began to ramp up. She was feeling things and seeing things. And
Okay,
then in
yeah.
return I was. And then on down the line we realized that we must be part of the same soul group. We had to have had past lives together. And so it's amazing how in the community you think you meet somebody new, but really you're like reuniting with an old, somebody that you knew in a past life. And
Yeah.
then you kind of come back together to do work for the community and for everybody else that is involved, because I believe that so being a part of a soul group, we're all connected. And the work that we do helps raise the vibration of everyone in our soul group, you know. So,
It's like, Sense8, the
the what?
series on Netflix, Sense8. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. No.
Oh, okay. The first season is really good. Second season
Mhm.
got canceled. But
Oh.
the concept the concept is awesome. It's like these, like, soul groupings of 8 people,
Oh.
and then they could kinda, like, share their abilities with each other remotely.
Oh, wow.
It's really interesting concept. But
That's cool.
I think we've all felt that, like, you're
Mhm.
around certain people, and it can kinda, like, stir up something within you,
Mhm.
your senses or what have you.
Mhm.
And also there's just those people that you meet, and you're like, "I feel like I know you." I feel like,
Yes.
like, it doesn't make sense, and it's just a feeling, it's just there.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that, psychologists could probably come up with, like, a million reasons why they think that is,
Right.
but, have you ever done psychedelics before?
No. I've thought
Mhm.
about, I've heard about the God helmet, and then I've also heard about, like, the DMT and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but I haven't done it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had literally, like, psychic communication when I was on,
Really?
mushrooms at one point, yeah. Um, and then now if you tell a psychologist or someone, they'll say, "Well, you were on mushrooms, so you were clearly just
Right.
not remembering correctly," but, like, when
Right.
you have those moments, it is powerful.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
it's so profound, and, I don't have that, like, I'm not like a psychic medium, right? Um,
Mhm.
but my wife, she has, like, some really strong intuitive skills. It's amazing, and we'll connect psychically with each other sometimes, and it's usually
Oh,
based
cool.
on food. Yeah, like, we'll know exactly, like, "This is what we wanna eat tonight," and then we text each other, like, at the same time.
Nice. Oh.
Yeah, it's so cool, and then there's different levels of that. Um,
Mhm.
do you have that with people in your life where you just, like, sync sometimes?
Yeah, no, there's definitely people that I do that with. I had one person that it was really, really intense, and it was to the point where it was just constant, you know? I love it. I feel gifted, with that.
So, what is the most favorite, type of topic that you would discuss on
Mm,
the Caravan of Lore?
gosh, my favorite topic? That's really hard. I'm not sure, 'cause every single topic seems to come up at the right
Mhm.
time. You know,
Mm.
so I might be experiencing something, or I might be ready to let go of something, or study, something new, and it'll bridge this gap, or it'll take me to a whole new, so I really just love to see what happens next and leave it up to the universe. And, you know, uh I mean, hauntings and stuff are great, healing and
Mhm.
metaphysics and gosh, soul groups and all of that is just, I mean, it's fascinating.
So is that where you kind of land spiritually, like just sort of trust the universe and like quote unquote go with the flow, or
I do. See, my big thing is believing that we are powerful co-creators and that we can manifest our reality. I
Mm,
believe in that 110%.
okay, yeah. I'm I'm there most of the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just, I want to go back to kind of what you were saying before about someone being like, "You're weird." Um,
Yes.
yeah, and like, I'll get that sometimes because I have weird interest, right? And people will be
Mhm.
like, "Okay," and then I'll realize, okay, that's not the person to talk to about this topic, you
Right.
know.
Right,
And
exactly.
right, but there's also those who like go a little bit farther and like kind of really think that we're all crazy and um, you know, freaky and not normal
Mhm.
in some sort of unhealthy way. And I always my retort to that is, what's so far fetched about us believing or entertaining the idea
Mhm.
of all of these, high strangeness concepts and phenomena versus someone who believes in a religion that has a deep
Mm.
mythological lore and creatures and miracles and
Yeah.
stuff of high fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, and that's like you're normal, but we're somehow crazy to entertain these other ideas, you know?
I think it comes down to fear. When you challenge someone else's beliefs, they don't it depends on if they're ready to hear
Okay.
something different. I know that, like, for me, I'll come into people's lives and I'm like, "Hey, look at this or think of this concept or I've had this experience or what have you." And it challenges their own personal beliefs and their own personal experiences. And it really makes them uncomfortable, and so then they can pin you as the crazy person when really they're struggling with themselves.
Gotcha.
So,
So, but then how does that explain those who are okay with people having religious beliefs, but may not be religious themselves, right? But then
mhm.
still look at people who are into the paranormal as a little off. Because I've experienced a lot
Yeah,
of people like that, you know?
right. Maybe they were just it's so hard because there could be a million different reasons for so many different things. They could just be maybe they grew up in a religious family, and so from birth they were used to this. It's something that they just that was their normal.
Mhm,
So, but maybe they don't choose it for themselves. However, they were not used to the whole paranormal thing. That is something that they didn't know anything about. So then all of a sudden that comes in and they're going, I already have an issue, like, they can be religious over here, I don't choose it to be, but now you're coming at me with this stuff? Like, you
mhm.
know?
Like, no, no,
So
no. Right. So it's
mhm,
conditioning then in a sense, right?
I think so.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and for myself, I came to these topics since I was a little kid. I just found movies and television
Oh, yeah.
fascinating,
Mhm.
watching like sightings on TV and other documentary series. Um, and for you, what was like your influence, entertainment wise, or was it novels?
Oh, man, I grew up on the old monster movies with my dad. So,
Okay.
we're talking werewolves, vampires, Swamp Thing. I
Yep.
love that
Classics.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The hand, the
Yeah. Oh,
blob.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and that
Mhm.
whole thing, and so, yeah, no, I love that stuff.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how those old films, um, such low budgets, right? They built the majority of their uh horror genre on suspense
Yes.
and like
Mm,
and shadow and because it was black and white, right? So you had that beautiful film noir thing going on.
yes.
But it's like they didn't need tons of gore and fast moving camera, and it was like I love that. Like the hand. Like when I was a kid, I was
Yes.
scared, and all it was
Was
a
a
hand
hand.
that moves around.
Exactly. Yeah, no. See, and that's what I love. I love the horror movies that, oh man, like there's this one called Hush. I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't think so.
Oh, it's really good. It's not it's more of a, I mean, it's a scary movie, and it's all based off of, it's suspense, waiting, what's gonna happen? How is this
Mhm.
person gonna deal with the situation? That gets me more than, I am not a zombie fan. I will not watch zombie movies. I'm
Yeah,
not into the, blood, guts, and gore. It's not my thing. But the psychological stuff
yes.
is fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, the original Night of the Living Dead, the scene where I forget the woman, she's in the graveyard
Yeah.
and coming at her, and like she trips and falls, and her shoe's behind there, and like
Yeah.
thinking about grabbing her shoe, but she doesn't, and you're sitting there in the audience like,
Yeah.
just go. You know? But
Yes.
but it works because kinda like what you said before,
Mhm.
you had that freezing
Oh,
experience. Your
yeah.
mind just doesn't know what to do because it just doesn't fit. What's happening to you in
Right.
that moment does not fit into your, paradigm of
Exactly.
reality. Yeah,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
the brain really doesn't know what to do. It kinda like,
Mhm.
freezes, um,
Mhm.
and then you have these long sequences like that Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's just
Mhm.
creepy as heck, like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not about people, like, coming at you, like these zombie movies now.
Mhm. No,
Yeah.
exactly.
I sound like I'm from that era, back in the old days, but
I love it.
like
I love it. It's
yeah.
great.
So, but yeah, you're a Vincent Price fan, you said earlier, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And then on KPNL, you have, a series.
I do. I have old time radio on Sundays, so we will
Mhm.
air, his stuff. We air, oh man, Blackstone, the Magic Detective. Gosh, what else? There's so many. And it changes constantly as well. So yeah, old time radio. It has to be my favorite lineup, and that's on Sundays.
Yeah, okay, and do we know before we, um, sign out, what is the title of your book?
Oh yes, it's called The Aperture and the Veil: Born in a Preternatural World. It's the Diaries of Lady Anne.
The Aperture and the Veil, born in the Preternatural World.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it. That's really cool. I'm excited. When's it coming out?
Thank you. It's gonna be in February. I'm not sure the exact date, but February. I'm really excited. I have wanted to be an author since I was like 6 years old. So the fact that it's actually happening, I'm over the moon.
That is awesome. I'm so happy for you. That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, yeah, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. I mean, maybe,
Yeah,
come
me
back on
too.
Paranormal Now at some point,
Oh, of
after the book
course.
comes out.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
Alright, cool. Well, it was nice chatting with you, Lady Anne.
Yes, thank you so much.
After our conversation, I realized I forgot to ask Anne whether she thinks dragons are real or not. So I followed up later, and this is the audio response that Anne sent me.
So, for some reason, dragons have been following me around like crazy. I have been asked by multiple people if I work with dragons in the spiritual realm, because there are a lot of people that actually work with dragons. And so I was asked by two different people if I did. and they had made mention about my connections energetically with Morgana Pendragon. And then today, like literally today, a couple hours ago, somebody was talking to me, and she's a psychic and stuff, and she goes, I see this dragon with you, and it's big, and it looks like this and everything like that. Does this ring a bell? Does this? And I was like, oh my gosh, what's the skin color and the eye color? She explained it, and it was exactly one of the dragons that I do tend to work with. And so I mean, so then you ask that. So to me, this is like majorly synchronistic, and I definitely think something is going on. So, I mean, are dragons real? Well, yes, same as vampires. Just not in the, movie type of way, I believe.
All right. Thanks for your brew of strangeness, Lady Anne, and I hope everyone else there had a nice brew of strangeness as well. And until next time, peace and love, and live in the mystery.